Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Star Trek Critic, where each episode is analyzed and ripped to shreds. We are going to start with 100 points and take away 1 point every time an error is noticed and see what the final score is. This series is called Star Trek, and later when a show came out as Star Trek The Next Generation, this one was rebranded as Star Trek The Original Series. They were going to call it Star Trek A New Hope, but that was already taken. Today's episode is Operation Annihilate, the last episode of the first season. The Enterprise is headed to Deneva, a planet in the path of several planets whose inhabitants have suffered mass hysteria, and it's possible that Deneva has already been taken over by the outbreak. 300 years in the future, star charts will look just like light brights. Sulu is tracking a Denevan ship heading straight for the sun. They still must be pretty far away, since Warp 8 is 500 times the speed of light. They got there pretty quick. Here is where the first point is lost, since you can see outside of the bridge set. As they get closer to the sun, it starts to speak to them, which is why Kirk confesses his sins. But the small ship burns up and the Enterprise is getting too close to the sun as well. At least they tried. If you look closely, there are 4 women on the bridge, and Scotty is making his move on one of them during a crisis moment. But now they have to deal with the fact that Deneva might also be overrun with mass insanity, and Kirk's brother and his family live there. We have a new yeoman on board, and the next point is lost due to this lack of communication with the planet. If Deneva is in the middle of all these shipping and cargo routes, why hasn't the Federation talked to them in a year? Kirk hasn't even talked to his family in that amount of time. He didn't even say he was coming. Kirk is kind of short with Uhura right here, but Uhura maintains her cool since she knows what she's doing. There's very little activity behind those eyelids. I guess when you transport down to the surface, your positions get spread out a little bit. And 1 point is lost since the captain and first officer beamed to the surface together on a planet that might be overrun by mass insanity. Shout out to the camera crew here. You can see the reflections of the landing party in the windows, but not the camera crew. Spock says the residents are sheltering in place. So does the mass insanity cause people to quarantine themselves? Or does shelter in place cause mass insanity? I think we're about to find that one out. Deneva doesn't look like UCLA at all. Not one bit. The residents try to run them away with clubs, and Kirk says to shoot them. -1 point since the one security guard is aiming at Scotty's back. McCoy and Spock both notice something is wrong, so the first thing they do is leave them behind. Now when they go into Sam's house, the first thing McCoy does is zap his wife with a tranquilizer. Shouldn't he make sure she isn't allergic to anything first? So -1 point. And Sam Kirk doesn't look like William Shatner with a mustache at all. Not one bit. And Kirk's nephew doesn't look at all like that bratty kid from Triacus either. Spock is on to the invaders, but once again, they are able to elude the tricorders. This happens about 79 times in the original series. I don't think X-rays will still use plates 300 years in the future. They barely use them now. So unless he is referring to a different kind of test, I will have to take a point. And as you can see, she is immune to the tranquilizers, which was why it was a waste of time for him to inject her in the house. To make a long story short, they came from the last planet that got infected with insanity and forced the inhabitants to bring them here, and probably forced the Denevans not to call for help as well. This is at least the 3rd time McCoy has injected her. She screams and dies, and 1 point is lost from the monitor, since your body temperature won't drop to 0 like that. It's the one on the left. The next point is lost for beaming down on the edge of a staircase. That's just dangerous. And why did Kirk come back if Spock is still on the surface? And why didn't he come back with a second search party? So -1 more point. And here is where they are attacked by giant flying bacon strips. It's a smart idea to form a ring, but these things are very resistant to phaser fire and don't even register on the tricorder either. This is foreshadowing the next 5 seconds when the giant bacon strip attacks Spock. Little did anyone know at the time, but watching Star Trek in 1967 was a young Ridley Scott who was inspired by this scene to create this creature. Spock doesn't look so good here. When this creature attacks, it leaves its own nervous system wrapped around the human's nervous system and takes over. And then this happens. Or maybe this. Spock looks like he's holding in a fart. The next point is lost when Spock gets to the bridge and gets into this fight with everyone, since they are clearly stunt doubles. Just look at this. McCoy concludes that the amount of pain a person experiences is why they go insane. but Spock becomes stubborn and says he is too Vulcan to feel pain. Kirk and Spock confess their love for each other, and here McCoy reminds Kirk there are still a million colonists on the surface that are infected by the flying bacon. Spock pretends to be Frankenstein. And of course, Spock just tried to take over the bridge, so there is no way Scotty's going to let him beam down to the surface. This is just an excuse to have another fight scene in the show. Spock tries to out-logic Kirk about going to the surface, and he is successful, but goes down without armed security. Anything could happen to him, and there's no one there to help him, so -1 point. And McCoy swears. That's 2 episodes in a row that swear. Oh look, he is about to be attacked, and there's no security to help him. Another point is lost here, since the guy knocks a phaser out of Spock's right hand, but a second later, the phaser is in his pocket. I would show the video, but I hate copyright claims. If security went with him, that would have bought them more time to get more than one of the bacon monsters. And the discovery is this is a brain cell, and all of them together make a giant organism that takes over other life forms to do its will, and is very hard to destroy. This won't be the last time we see a creature like this. As you can see, Kirk is pretty upset since he knows that the next galaxy is just too far away, and they aren't going to magically have a solution in just 1 hour. And Spock may be logical, but you can tell he's a little tired of McCoy hovering over him like a doctor. McCoy can't find anything that can kill him. Maybe he should try a pair of scissors, and Kirk knows that he needs to stop it even if it means killing all of the people of Deneva. So check this out, there are 3 women in this meeting, but who does Kirk ask for advice? This explains why he's single. Spock and McCoy bicker like they have to do at least once in each episode. Here they come to the conclusion that it is bright light that can kill the creature, and go through the test in the lab, but check this out. The light is so bright they have to wear goggles outside of the chamber. The flying brain cell is dead. That's what she said. And 1 point here is lost for testing Spock too soon and without goggles. Spock's logic is wrong this time, and now he is blind. And the next point is lost since they didn't wait for the test results, and now Spock lost his eyesight for nothing. So it is ultraviolet light that kills the creatures, but I will have to take another point here since there is no explanation of how the ultraviolet light from the satellites gets into the shaded areas where the creatures are hiding. And this much ultraviolet light will fry the skin of all the residents of Deneva. The last point is lost since Spock can see again because of an inner island no one knew about, just so the show can have a happy ending and Spock and McCoy can bicker with each other again. It was just an unnecessary plot device resolved with a second unnecessary plot device. So -1 point. And why did they leave it at warp 1? That's only light speed. That's so slow. So, who lived on Deneva? Yeoman Zora was played by Mariska Taliaferro, who was also a model. Joan Swift has 40 credits to her name. But what of Craig Huxley? Secretly, the creatures still have a stinger in his back that was immune to the ultraviolet light. And when his adoptive parents took him to Triakis, it enabled him to meet this creature and create his own cult of children who will grow up to be bratty millennials that cause their parents to commit suicide, then commandeer the Enterprise to Marcus 12 so the brain cells can start all over again. And then right after this mission, James Kirk was so upset he wrote the book, My Brother Sam is Dead. Rumors, of course, still continue to this day that due to budget limitations, parts of this episode were sold out to advertise Light Bright, and more noticeably, bacon. But wait, there's more. Now for the real truth on who these brain cells are related to. They are related to the Borg. The cube works just like a giant brain, and as you can see, a Borg here is injecting the stinger into someone, just like this brain cell injected a stinger into Spock. And that's the real story. And Operation Annihilate gets a final score of 85%. And you'll never look at bacon the same anymore. Don't go yet, it's time for a first season roundup. Who were the yeomen of season 1? There was Yeoman Colt, who wanted to be Eve. Yeoman Smith, whose job was to be blonde. Yeoman Rand, a love interest for Kirk. Yeoman Barrows, a love interest for McCoy. Yeoman Mears from the Galileo 7. Yeoman Ross, who danced with Trelane. Yeoman Tamula, a love interest for the Bandit. Yeoman Zara, who fought Flying Bacon. And a few uncredited, all of which were women, and strangely Kirk said he didn't want a female yeoman. Makes you wonder. But there's more. Who sat at navigation before Chekhov in the first season, or at the helm when Sulu wasn't around? There are too many to count, at least for this video, and eventually I will make a special video just for them. So, what happened in the first season? McCoy's old girlfriend became a salt-sucking monster. A teenager comes on board who's got too much power. Kirk's best friend also becomes too powerful. A slave trader comes aboard with his cargo. Nurse Chapel's old boyfriend is a Cylon. They find a planet of 300-year-old Lost Boys. They visit an asylum. A bratty alien bullies them. Spock commits mutiny. We watch home movies. An acting troupe hides a killer. A space battle with Romulans. An amusement park planet. Spock crashes a shuttlecraft. They meet a bratty child. Kirk battles a giant lizard. They go back in time. Everyone frames Kirk. They meet a stagnant planet full of computerized liberals. Kirk meets Khan, round 1. A planet with a computerized war machine. A colony of spore-induced vegan zombies. A creature made of silicon. They try to colonize a planet of superior smiley old men. McCoy rewrites history. The only way to fix it is to kill a pacifist. And they come upon a planet of flying brain cells. And remember, it all started with this, a boy and a girl exploring. That's all Star Trek has ever been about. Remember, all images are subject to copyright, which is why you'll see very few videos here to prevent those pesky copyright claims. So go watch the actual show to make them happy and tell them I sent you. There are a few more stills at the end of this video too. Thanks for viewing. Before you go, check out my other videos and playlists. Click that like button, the share button, and that subscribe button, and I will see you soon for Season 2. Obviously, clothing features don't look good for teenagers.